I think that history has been written by the oppressor, but I think that the history of what actually happened has been told by the people who suffered this subjugation for as long as we've had oppression. People have always found a way to tell their stories, to insist that they existed at this time, to insist that they deserve dignity and they deserve freedom. The problem is we haven't learned how to listen, and we haven't learned how to find those stories past the recorded history. And I think that now we're learning. We are realizing that there is another history and another memory beneath what we were told was the only thing that existed. The fact that we are able to hear and to listen to these stories, I think, is a testament to the stubborn insistence on people, on their memories, on their lives, on their own history. And I think we're witnessing that now. I hope so, at least in Italy. But what's happening around the world, and what's happening in Gaza, in the West Bank, what has been happening in Sudan and Ethiopia and the Congo is going to test this, because we are witnessing genocide happening live on television and on videos. What's being written now? What is being hidden now? What do you do when all the information is so apparent? And I think we're seeing a refusal by some people to acknowledge what's happening. And our task as concerned citizens of the world is to refuse silence and to continue to speak this until the world is ready to hear. Women are the center of every liberation movement, every anti-fascist movement. It is important that we listen to their voices now. Women have been there telling the stories of their families and their communities for centuries, for millennia. Do we recognize that? Do we recognize the role that women have had in building countries, by building communities? Do we understand that every politician that takes the stage somewhere comes from a woman? I think we have to understand that women are speaking now, and they have been. And again, I go back to, are we listening? And do we know how to do it? Do we recognize the voice of a woman in the midst of all the noise? I think that there were generations that grew up in Italy without understanding this history, the true nature of colonial history in Italy. I think that this generation, there is a younger generation that really gives me hope, because they are pushing back against the erasures of that memory. They're asking questions of their parents and their grandparents, and maybe grandparents if they are still alive. I have so much hope in this new generation, but they are recognizing that their history of colonialism obligates them to fight against colonialism and occupation in other places. And we're seeing that across Italy in these anti-fascist movements, not just here in the country, but what's happening in other places in the world. And it's being taught a little bit more. I am realizing the more I come to Italy, the more people know about this history, the more they are taught about it. And so I credit teachers. I credit those people who are willing to tell students, this is what happened. You won't find it in a textbook, but here's another book that you can read and let's discuss it. And that's happening gradually. It's changing. And I think that we will find that there is another generation that's going to refuse taking things quietly in Italy. I have been talking with other writers about this. What is the place of words in a moment that seems to have used up all of our vocabulary? And what we have said is that we have to keep speaking. Even if we're saying the same thing again and again, we have to keep writing. But this is also a time not just for words, but for your body. Your body has to be somewhere resisting these movements towards annihilation of entire people. There are protests, there are drives, there are ways that you can speak to other people that may not know or may not recognize what's happening. Words are good, but we've moved beyond words now, and it's time for protest and noise. I have two cultures and maybe 3 as not just someone who lives in the United States, but has lived in Italy, has lived in Germany, I've lived in different parts of the world. I bring all of that into the writing, and I think that knowledge helps me draw. It helps my imagination move in different places, and so I'm grateful for that.